About to go live. Hey, what's up, team? I'll just wait for a few viewers to jump on and make sure that we're live. While you're waiting, I see some viewers coming in. Please hit the share. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just making sure that we're going live across all avenues. Oh, there we are. Yep, LinkedIn's on. Hey, welcome, team. First of all, what a great fight it was between Tyson Fury and Wilder. Man, that was unbelievable. Fury, geez, he's amazing. I've come to our HQ, our food bank at the moment, just so that I can be away from a little bit of the noise that's at home with the kids, as we can all understand. But I'm joined by Dr. Richard Hulme. I hope I pronounced your name right, brother. Look, and he works at Mrna Town Centre Clinic. He was there working today. And I think, look, this is just about me bringing some information to people that are sitting on the fence. Now, just to be transparent, I've had the vaccination. And I get my second shot next week. But there's just so much misinformation out there. I thought as a leader in my community, I thought it was my duty to, get in contact with a doctor who works for Tamaki Health, who we do a lot of work with. So to bring some answers to these questions. Now, it's going to be real just... we're just going to fire through it and talk as if we're talking to one another and just having a conversation. Please, I just want to make sure that we are moderating comments. Please, no hate. Okay, let's just listen. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. And let's just listen to this advice and from someone who's working on the front line. Okay, so let's bring him in. Let's have a massive... I want to see some likes as we bring in Dr. Richard. Here we go. Did I pronounce your name right, brother?
Oh, look, the last name's Palangi name, so it often trips people up. I find it easier to pronounce Pacifica names than Palangi names, because the Palangi ones you always get wrong. So my one's L is silent, so it's actually Hume. Yeah. Hume.
Oh, okay, geez, I got it really wrong.
I remember telling a traffic officer once that it's Hulme, like Denny Hulme, the racing driver. But he was a nice cop and he let me off the ticket anyway. So that was good.
That's good. It's like it's Hume, like the Hume Highway over there.
Yeah.
And what is your nationality, bro? What's your background?
So mum's Samoan and dad's English. And so mum's from Malamalava and Savai'i, and dad's from the northwest, I believe it is, Liverpool, near to Liverpool. That sort of thing. But he went to war at 14 and a half, so he had an unusual upbringing there, going to war early. And then, of course, he came down to the Pacific. That's where he met mum. And then they came to New Zealand. And then, then that's another chapter. But thanks for inviting me on tonight. And just before we start, I just thought I'd say that, look, I'm not being paid anything by anybody to do the talk tonight. This is just you and me having a chat about things, and I'm here not to sanitize the information. I'm going to give you the facts as I know them, you and the listeners. And I'm not here to try and persuade anyone to go one way or the other. I'm just here to try and give information to help people to make up their own mind. So that's just sort of a bit of a brief. The opinions I have will be my opinions, based on the information that I've seen. They're not necessarily the opinions of Tamaki Health, even though I am an employee of theirs.
And you're it's good to hear not being paid for this, because neither am I, bro. So, but
people always
come about. Just come about. Look at this. This is how stressed I am. Look at this. No, that's a piece of paper. That's how many notes I'm going to write. Hey. This come about because I just wanted to get some information out there from someone that's on the front line, because there's so much misinformation out there. We haven't been asked by any government department. We're not being paid by any health organization to do this. Look, to be honest, I've been so busy doing this food bank, serving our people, just as you're so busy on the front line doing what you're doing. That's but I thought it's just so important that we jump on and do this. So we've got a whole bunch of questions. So what do you say we get cracked on, eh?
Sounds good.
Get into these things. Firstly, are you vaccinated?
Yes, I am. I've had both doses of the vaccine back in about April, and yeah, no problems.
All right, so here's our first question. Now, we haven't filtered any of these questions, so here we go here. First one. Can you please explain how the vaccine works? What is mRNA difference to traditional vaccines?
Sure. So these are good questions, and thanks everyone for sending these through. Some of them were really quite tough, and I don't normally get asked these questions every day. So, so it made me think about them, that's for sure. So yes, we're getting technical. This is mRNA versus the traditional. So as you can see, there's two different types. Both of them work by trying to make the spike protein that sort of we've heard about with the COVID vaccine. So what's that all about? It's like a kinna with a COVID hairdo on each spike, right? And what the vaccines do is try and mimic one of those spikes and therefore encourage the body to produce antibodies, which is part of our body's defense against infection. Now, how are they different? The traditional vaccine uses a weakened virus to try and encourage the body to mount the defense, whereas the mRNA is a lab manufactured protein that again does the same job, trying to stimulate the body's defense. So, so if you like, the traditional vaccines can be like very weak live vaccines, whereas the mRNA ones are not viruses. So the one we've gone with in New Zealand is the Pfizer vaccine. That's an mRNA vaccine, so it's not a virus in itself. And so therefore, you know, those who are worried about viruses, it's not a virus. So there are different ones, and obviously there are different ones that give you different side effects, and we'll get onto that with the other questions. Hope that helps.
That's a good analogy, kinna. You know, I've never tried kinna, and I don't think I ever want to, but that's awesome. So we got one here. How long does the vaccine last?
And that's another good question. The short answer is we don't really know, right? Some people have said 6 months. Some people have said 8 months. We don't know. And that's a very important question, because people are also asking, do we need a booster vaccine after we've had the first 2 jabs, right? Do we need a third one? Do we need a fourth one? They're still waiting for the results of studies to answer that question. But clearly some governments are saying, hey, we want you guys to have a booster if you're really high risk after 6 months. I've seen that in the overseas literature. And that's another thing about COVID. We look overseas a lot because we try to learn from other countries around what's worked, what hasn't worked. So the New Zealand position is we don't know yet. At the moment, we're not talking about boosters, but overseas they are. Some are saying 6, some are saying 8 months. We'll watch and see.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening over in Israel, isn't it? Everyone's getting booster shots now. Is that what's happening?
Look, I have to confess, like yourself being super busy, I haven't been keeping tabs on what's happening in every country overseas. I tend to, when I research things, look at what's going on in England, UK, and in the US, as well as watching our neighbours like Singapore and Australia.
Awesome. Oh, the only reason I say that is I've got a worker, one of my best friends, Andrew Higgins, 25 years I've known him, and he's on the fence. He's on the fence, and all he keeps, every morning I pick him up, it's like a machine gun to my ear, mRNA, Israel. So that's the only reason I know about Israel. So, so here, next question we've got, is the virus likely to die down over the summer period as its normal flu or virus would?
Yeah, look, I think the short answer is probably not. And I think we're going to see that coming over the next few months, where you know, already today we've seen a jump in numbers to 60, and you know, watch this space. The Delta virus is quite different from a normal flu. You know, where it's not necessarily related to temperature. You know, like a flu virus can be, where we see these differences in the seasons. Delta behaves differently.
60 cases today, man. When I saw that, I was going, oh,
yeah,
it is scary, eh?
it is scary. It is scary.
And what though? Just sorry, I'm going to go off topic here. So what? I mean, this question's probably been asked. What can we do? I mean, obviously, a vaccine alone. That's what I don't want. I want people to understand. You can't just get the vaccine and then all of a sudden you don't wear masks and all of a sudden you don't, wash your hands and it's a part of it, right? You've got to do everything else as well to really to fight against this.
You're absolutely right. The best defense for everyone is to get vaccinated, right? Because we're not going to be able to. We're seeing it already. We're not going to be able to contain the virus. We had this elimination strategy to try and keep our numbers as low as possible and hopefully get down to zero. Clearly, we're seeing now that we're not going to achieve that, and the government's already changing its position around a change from an elimination strategy to what they're calling a mitigation strategy. And that strategy really has been, hey, if we can keep everyone in lockdown as long as we can, hopefully more people can get a chance to get vaccinated and therefore have some protection rather than no protection against the virus.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And just on the government, I believe overall they've done a great job. You see everyone has an opinion, but they're not the ones, geez, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, if you're in their position. And overall, you look at the way we are now compared to a lot of other places, we're in a lot better position.
We are. And I mean, whether it be, Labour, National, whoever that was in government, they would have turned to the experts for the best advice. And that's what's happened. And, we don't have all the answers. We're still learning as we go. And, we just have to be upfront with people to say, look, we don't know the answers to these questions. This is the best available information at this time.
Yeah. Oh, awesome, man. Next question. Why are some people showing signs of, this is one, so this is a good one. Why are people showing some signs of being magnetic? Literally had my niece and cousin show me that spoons and tweezers can stick into their chest and arms.
You look, I don't believe this is anything to do with the vaccine. All right. I mean, for those people who have been vaccinated, I don't think very many people have sort of reported that they've got these magnetic powers, right? The body is electrically charged, being.
So you get those electric shocks, right?
Yeah. That's like electric shocks, right? So people can do all sorts of funny things, but it's nothing to do with the vaccine.
So I wonder why are these people doing this? So I see this all the time, and then that's what I want to also, just for everyone watching, it's so easy to go down a rabbit hole on this thing, and when you start watching these things, the algorithm of social media, the algorithm of Google and anything online, if you start talking about it around your phone, it's going to start sending you, you start watching things on YouTube about it and Facebook, it's just going to keep sending you stuff on your newsfeed because it's picking up that you're interested in it. And then all of a sudden you're putting things to your arm and checking if it works. So just want to encourage people not to, just be careful what you're watching on social media, watch stuff like this. All right, so that's that one. What do we got here? Why do you think people are hesitant? It's a good one. Some people are questioning the effectiveness of the vaccine. Can you explain what protection it gives to those fully vaccinated to those who are not vaccinated, unvaccinated?
Yeah, look, another good question. I think obviously people have their own personal reasons why they don't want to be vaccinated. Sometimes that's for religious reasons. Obviously, some people, it's because of a fear of the misinformation that's out there. And some people, it's fear because they don't have any information or very little information. So I think those are the three main reasons why people are hesitant.
Where can people go to get information? I mean, obviously, come back to this video and watch it any time, but where else can they go?
I think that obviously the Ministry of Health have got a good website on, what's the best available information.
The hard thing, brother, the hard thing for us, our people, is that there is a mistrust of the system. And that's a big thing. It's a we're always, from school to the police, there's a mistrust. And what would you say to those people?
Talk to your friends. Talk to the people you do trust, because I agree with you. I remember once having a 68-year-old Samoan couple in my room, and they were both unvaccinated. And I tried to give them as much information as I could and encourage them to get vaccinated. And I told them how high risk they were because of their age and because of all their health conditions. And I said, look, I'll even do the book my vaccine thing for you. And I brought it up on my computer and said, look, can I enter your details in? And they said, oh, doctor, can we just wait a little bit? Right. And sometimes it's not that they just didn't trust me. It's just that they wanted to make up the time, their decision, make their minds up in their own time. And after they had more time to consult with people that they do trust more, perhaps. Right? And that could be their minister, that could be the uncle, or could be their cousin, could be the person next door. Right? And I think once they're getting some consistency in the information, then maybe they may be less hesitant. But there's a lot of people that are hesitant. So don't feel bad about it. I think just make sure you've got the best available information to help you make a decision.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this. Well, the big reason for me is, we've earned the trust of our people in our community with the work that we're doing. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to do this and give people information.
Yeah.
All right. If I get fully vaccinated, does it stop me from getting COVID?
No is the short answer. No. So you can still get COVID, as we've seen. So I think a police officer just recently got COVID and he'd already had 2 doses of the vaccine. But what we can say is that if you do get it, it will be a much milder version of the COVID disease than if you were unvaccinated.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? It's about, it's just like I was talking to one of my trainers the other day, and he talked about just the simple, exercising, so he was talking about if you do 150 minutes a week of gentle exercise or 75 minutes of intense exercise, you're 250% less likely to go into hospital if you get COVID. So I guess that's what the same thing, that's what the vaccine's doing, right? It's so if you do get COVID, because it's still possible, you're not going to have as an extreme, version of it, right? Symptoms and all this type of stuff.
So they say 1 dose will save your life, 2 doses will keep you out of intensive care, is what they say. But
and this is real. Hey, this is real.
Yeah, there's still some people who are going to end up in hospital, but we've seen them pull through, right? And these are really sick people without COVID, and then when they get it, there's a sort of are they going to make it? And then they do pull through. But just remember, the vaccine is not 100% effective. With 2 doses, you get 95% protection. With 1 dose, you get 55% protection. So remember, it depends on how many doses you've had. But even the flu vaccine isn't 100% effective. It's about 75% effective, right? So that's not 100%. And you often hear people saying, oh, look, I had the flu jab, but I still got the flu, right? But perhaps it was a milder version, perhaps, right? But I think the take-home message is some protection's better than no protection.
Yeah, 100%, man. Here's the next one. Why are the vaccinated so scared of the unvaccinated if they are protected by the vaccine?
That's another good question. I think no one wants to get COVID, and they're scared. Everyone's scared, right? We have health professionals who are scared despite being fully vaccinated. I think the problem is that no one wants to take it home to their loved ones. No one wants to take it home to the vulnerable in their bubble, right? So it's not just about ourselves, it's about the loved ones around us.
Yeah.
I think that's another key thing, right? If you're not doing it for yourself, do it for your community. One day I hope to go back to Samoa, right? And I know that because I've been fully vaccinated, one, I've got a better chance of getting over there. But secondly, I know that I'm not going to be able to pass it on to any of my loved ones in Samoa. I've got an elderly aunt who's over there. I couldn't forgive myself if I gave her COVID, right? So it's about us keeping those that are around us safe as well.
Yeah, well, that's why I did it, is because we work with a lot of the most vulnerable, with a lot of underlying long-term health conditions. So again, I couldn't forgive myself. Look, we'll go to the crowd. We've got some questions in the crowd there. Don't forget, team, everyone watching, hit the share so that more people can see this. We've got a question from Christine Phillips. When are they giving vaccination certs from doctors? Can you show us what one looks like? I don't think you can show us what one looks like now, but
they're coming soon, I believe. I think someone said November. I understand it's going to be a QR code, and so you'll be able to have it on your phone. And apparently, there's going to be a different passport if you're going and traveling overseas. So there's ones to enable you to get into businesses and what have you that you'll be able to show. So that's the plan, I believe.
Around November, you reckon?
Yeah.
And okay, there's another one here from the crowd. Could you explain what's in the vaccine?
So the Pfizer vaccine has some saline, which is like water, to help mix it up and make it a liquid that can be injected. And then there's some proteins that are what stimulate the immune response, right? Because remember, it's trying to pretend it's the COVID vaccine by, like, if you like, putting on this coat that looks like a spike protein. So essentially that's what it is, but it's not a virus, right? It's sort of laboratory sort of formed proteins.
Yeah. We got a question here from Leah Walters. Don't let it put more comment than a question. Don't let it put fear into you, fans. But here's my question: why has the vaccine been targeted for Polynesians and hit the lower decile areas as priority? Well, I mean, most of us are suffering the most long-term conditions. We also, majority of Polynesians, adults, are 70% obese, which is a massive issue if we get it. But I'll let the doctor. Sorry, I'm trying not to get. Doctor, answer the question.
I think that the answer is that all those things you just said, Dave, but historically our people have been more careful about their decisions around do they get vaccinated or not. If we look at what's going on within Tamaki Health, for example, I think our latest figures are close to 50% Pacifica have been fully immunized. For Māori, it's something like about 40%. Wow. So we're not as fully vaccinated as the Palangi Pākehā patients are. And that makes us higher risk because we don't have the protection. And as you say, we tend to be more overweight, we tend to have more health conditions, and therefore we're higher risk.
I'll go one more from the crowd. If Pfizer, is that how you pronounce these things?
Pfizer.
Pfizer.
That's so good.
Sorry, I'm reading it literally. Pfizer. I've also run out of cups of coffee. So Pfizer is one. If Pfizer is one of our, as our PM has said, then why are other countries taking AstraZeneca and Moderna?
Yeah. Look, I'm not too sure why other governments are doing what they're doing. What we do know is that the Pfizer is the best performing vaccine. And so it's 95% effective if you have 2 doses. If we look at the other vaccines, they're not as high performing. So some are like 92, 78, that sort of thing. So I was glad that we were having the most effective vaccine come to New Zealand. And I know that one of my cousins who's in Australia, where they got the AstraZeneca vaccine first, he was holding off. He wanted to wait till the Pfizer vaccine came to Australia because he knew that was better and safer. And then what happened? we saw the AstraZeneca vaccine start to cause problems with clotting. And you can imagine how that went down with a lot of Australians. And then probably put the fear in a lot of New Zealanders as well. But the good news is that clotting problem tends to occur with the vaccine that's in Australia, the AstraZeneca vaccine, not the Pfizer vaccine.
Oh, sweet. So we got the best, only the best. Okay. We'll go back to the questions so all of this, just for everyone watching, I'm not putting questions that I'm just choosing. These were ones that were put already over the week that were sent in to our team, and we're presenting them to the doctor. So I haven't even read these until I started typing them in earlier. So has anyone been vaccinated? Has anyone who has been vaccinated gotten COVID? Well, we already know the answer to that one.
Yeah, we do. The answer is yes. Yeah.
Does the vaccine actually protect against Delta strand?
And the good news is yes. Because initially, when this vaccine came out, it was about the first strains of COVID, which were the Alpha strain and the Beta strain. And then obviously the virus started to change and the Delta strain came along. And the good news is that Pfizer vaccine protects against Delta as well. So that's great.
Just on that, do you think there'll be other strains, of this COVID? So we're getting hammered by Delta. Later on, are we going to get hammered by something else? Is that likely?
There are some new strains of the COVID virus out there at the moment, but they're not as strong as the Delta one. So the Delta one seems to be easier to catch and sticks around longer. So that seems to be the most potent strain so far.
I've got a question here from Susan. I've had my shots a few months back, had no problem. Now I'm getting banging headaches. Is that a side effect or not?
The answer is probably not. We know that the vaccine does cause side effects. Usually they happen reasonably quickly after someone's been vaccinated. So we know that, for example, the condition where it's called myopericarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart and the layers of the heart, will occur within 48 hours of the second dose. And there's that dose-response relationship in terms of when was the dose given and when did the side effects occur. So we don't tend to see headaches developing months later. It's probably another explanation.
I know what the explanation is, Susan. It's like me, I've got a banging headache. That's why I had to come to our gym to do this. It's called being in lockdown and having 4 kids at home. So that could be the reason for headaches. So, that's the reason for my headache, I think. So we've got, why are some doctors and nurses being censored on their findings where the vaccine has made people very sick? What is inside? You've already answered what is inside, but
yeah. I'm sorry to answer the first part of this question. I don't believe the government's trying to censor anything and hide the fact that people do get sick, right? Like we had that case of a woman who died of heart problems in her 50s. That is a very rare complication of the vaccine. And I don't think that would be good politics if the government was hiding anything from the public. You can imagine how quickly National would jump on that if they did do that and something came out later. So no, I think we've got a very open, transparent government with regards to does it cause harm or not.
What is the death rate? What's the percentage in terms of people dying of getting the vaccine? Well, isn't it like 0.0002% or something? Yeah. Do you know what it is?
I don't know the number specifically. All I know is it's extremely low.
Yeah.
Really, really low. Compared to the number of doses that have been given, both in New Zealand and worldwide, very, very low.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's an important thing to understand to everyone listening, that the percentage of people dying from the vaccine is extremely low. And, it's just that obviously it's such a new thing, and that the people out there, the hardcore anti-vaxxers are very vocal. And so we tend to hear about it a lot, but it is in fact very, very low.
Yeah.
Why are the alternative vaccines which can why aren't there alternative vaccines? I think you've answered that one, but
yeah, I mean there are alternative vaccines, and but with government's gone with the most effective one.
What are some common side effects of the vaccine?
So there are local side effects. So the most common would be just some aching in the arm, which usually goes away within 24 hours. And there are the generalized side effects, which are just like having a flu. So people get tired, they get headaches, they can get fever, joint pains, loss of appetite, nausea, those sort of typical flu-like symptoms. And then there are the important ones, like the one where it affects your heart. And so if it affects your heart, which is less than 1 in a million, you might have feeling short of breath. You might be aware of your heartbeat. It might be irregular or abnormal, and you might feel really tired. So those are sort of some important effects, and those heart ones tend to be in young men, and will follow the second dose. I think it's quite an important one because I was just saying to Dave off air before we came on tonight. My first patient this morning was a 15-year-old Samoan girl who was one of 8. All 7 members of the family, her other 7 members of the family, fully vaccinated, no side effects. But for her, she had her first dose, no side effects. Second dose, she started feeling unwell. She had a fever, she felt tired, she had aching in her muscles, and she still didn't feel better after 1 week. And I think she's got the myopericarditis, so I sent her to the hospital today. So it's very uncommon. Generally, the effects are mild, so hers isn't affecting her a great deal. If you saw her in the street, you wouldn't think there was anything wrong with her, but she just feels tired. And so we'll see what the outcome is when she comes out of hospital.
And those types of the more extreme side effects are very, very rare.
Yeah, they're very rare. So as I say, the ones to do with the heart, less than 1 in a million, but I've seen that 1 in a million today.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important. See, that's why I want everyone listening. We're not hiding anything here. You know, we're bringing you the questions that were put to us. We're answering them in the hope that you can, get your information from someone who's on the front line and it's credible, not from down some wormhole on YouTube or something like that. So, what advice do you have for those who are worried about potential vaccine injuries or unknown long-term side effects? I think the long-term side effects one, a lot of people are worried about that.
Yeah, well, look, as I said earlier, we don't have all the answers at this stage. I know people were worried about how quickly the vaccines were pushed through to try and get it out to everybody, to protect everybody and save lives. But the short answer is we don't know if there are any long-term side effects. We know that there's people getting COVID are having some long-term effects of the virus. Right? But we haven't heard any long-term effects of the vaccine.
I guess it's so. I mean, this is new. I mean, I don't know what was it like when when the flu vaccine first came out. Was there this kind of uproar as well when that happened? I know you're not old enough, but when studying it.
Yeah. I don't recall there being this concern. I guess it's because the Delta's killed so many people internationally. I mean, it's sort of like something out of a movie, isn't it? Really, in terms of how many people are dying. Whereas influenzas cause deaths as well, but not as many deaths as what COVID and the Delta strain have caused. So I think all eyes, all attention's on going on, isn't it? So we've got to
and social media. I think it's played a huge part in this.
Yeah.
Can the vaccine cause blood clots, and if so, what are the symptoms I need to look out for?
Yeah, so we know the AstraZeneca one has been associated with blood clots, but we don't have that vaccine here in New Zealand. So, if essentially, if someone was to get a blood clot, say, in their leg, they'd have a pain, they'd have some swelling, they might have some redness. But as I say, we don't have the AstraZeneca vaccine being given in New Zealand, so I don't think people need to worry.
I've got a question here from the crowd. My sister-in-law had her second shot back in April, healthy as. She can, over last night, her breathing is scaring her because she knows her body and she's finding it hard to breathe now. So why, since her second jab, she's becoming unwell? She's 24 years old.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know the health, the past medical history of that loved one. What I can say is that there are lots of different viruses out there, and they can affect people's breathing. And the COVID vaccine is to prevent the ill effects of COVID, but it won't protect you from another virus. So if I think the first thing is that she should get tested to make sure it isn't COVID in the first instance, particularly knowing that she's been vaccinated and that you can still get COVID. So she needs to be tested. And the second thing is that she should seek medical attention if she's breathless, just to make sure it's not something else like pneumonia or something to do with her heart, because there are lots of different causes of breathlessness. And we sometimes assume it's just a flu, but it can be something much worse.
Yeah. A lot of people I know have said they have heart palpitations after the vax over the next few days. Can you explain the side effects of, I can't even say those words. But...
Yeah, that's that heart condition we were talking about before. And we're interested in people having these effects after the second dose, right? So as we saw in that young girl I talked about earlier, her first dose, not a problem. She didn't notice anything, just maybe a bit of aching, which had gone by that same day. But with the second dose, she felt unwell. So the side effects, tiredness, chest pain, feeling short of breath, fever, any of those things, go and see your doctor just to make sure. All right? I think the key thing is it's following the second dose, and it's usually within 24 to 48 hours. So for this young girl, it was within 24 hours that she started to feel unwell. But she only came to see someone after 1 week when it wasn't getting better.
Yeah, it's an important thing. It can be. It's COVID's not the only thing out there at the moment. Hey, so like you're saying, go and get checked.
Yeah.
We got the next one here. What is the side effect result for people who have health conditions? Side effect results.
Yeah. So look,
we've gone over these.
The side effects are the same for people whether they have a health condition or not. So there are the local side effects, then there's the general effects, and then there are the rare effects.
Got here. Why are they not reporting the number of hospitalizations due to the adverse effects of vaccine? Surely that should be part of the daily report.
Yeah, so I think that they haven't broken that down. It's an interesting consideration. I presume, I don't know, to tell you the truth. I presume it's because the number of hospitalizations due to the side effects is very low, because by far the majority of people will just have some local reaction. And then the other effects like tiredness and so forth, which are more generalized, usually go away in a couple of days. And they're not severe, they're only mild, they're not severe enough to warrant a hospital admission. And that's the other reason, is that because they are so mild, we only send people to hospital if they're having breathing problems and need oxygen.
Yeah.
So I guess that's because the effects are so mild, is the answer.
I mean, I felt tired. When I got my first shot, I felt tired. But other than that, I trained later that day, which they told me not to, but yeah, sorry. I did. In August, there was a reported saline botch-up with COVID-19 vaccine in Highbrook. How can some of that happen? And can it happen again?
We're all human and we all make mistakes. And I think this is probably what happened, where maybe it was they were distracted, maybe it was the pressure of work, pressure to perform. It's down to human error. But I think the good thing is it was identified, and the people that were affected by that were encouraged to have another injection, just to make sure they were fully protected. So yes, they got water or saline for the first dose maybe, and then they got one vaccine, the proper one, and then so left effectively they're only half, thinking they were fully immunized, they're only half immunized.
Yeah, I mean that's no one's perfect, Now everyone makes mistakes, but the good thing is that the system picked it up. So we've got a question here. Could you please answer? Do you know when NZ is getting the Novavax vaccine?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. As I say, we've got plenty of supplies of the best vaccine so far, and I know the government was looking at getting other other types of vaccine, but because the Pfizer one was doing so well, I haven't heard about any other vaccines coming in.
Yeah, I mean, if we got the best one,
Yeah.
Mrna, we got a question for Mrna, one of our members. If the elderly already have their 2-dose last 6 months ago, are they supposed to have their booster or third vaccine?
I think the answer is watch this space. Right, we're seeing countries overseas considering a booster dose. At the moment, it hasn't been recommended by the New Zealand government, but it could just be because they're waiting to see that everyone has had the opportunity to have at least 2 doses in New Zealand, at least one, before they start offering a third to the high risk.
Got another question here from one of our members, Naomi. My daughter is now hybrid immune after the first jab, which affects 1 in 1,000 people. What does this mean? Hybrid immune.
I haven't heard that used before. No, I mean, we know. I'm not too sure if I'm not too sure what they're meaning by that. We know of herd immunity, which is what the government's going for, which is aiming to have at least 90% or more of the population fully immunized as herd immunity. But I haven't heard of hybrid immunity. If that's what was that the term they use? Hybrid immunity?
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll have some research. There's going to be some questions we're going to have to come back to, and we will answer later in the week. We got another one here. Is COVID vaccine going to be a yearly thing like the flu vaccine?
I would probably think so, because all viruses can change, or we call it mutate. And we have to keep up with those mutations. So the flu vaccine changes every year. And as we find out what strains are affecting the Northern Hemisphere in their winters, we change our flu vaccine so when those strains come to our shores, we're protected. And we have to keep doing that every year. So with COVID and the different strains that may evolve, I suspect I wouldn't be surprised if that'll be something that will happen in the future. But I haven't heard anything about it at this stage.
Yeah. This is a question. This was a long one. So it's one of two. As stated on MOH site, temporary one-sided facial drooping has been reported as a rare side effect. And then the next part is, can you define what temporary means?
Sure. I remember seeing this when it first came out. And it was because when the vaccine was first trialed, I think it was in Sweden, they were looking at trialing it in, I think it was people over the age of like 70. And what they found was that the chance of you getting that facial weakness was about 1 in 14 or something along that. So it was quite high that you could get that just normally without having any vaccine. In other words, it was a naturally occurring type of event that was quite common in people, right? Anyway. But the problem was that association with them having recently been vaccinated, that people thought, hey, is this a side effect of the vaccine? And the answer was, it's just coincidence around timing. So what we've found is that this hasn't been a side effect in New Zealand that we've seen of Bell's palsy or facial weakness, as it's called. And if it does occur, it's just coincidence. It's not something, because people will randomly get this from a virus, and it'll just happen randomly out of the blue for somebody. And if they've had the flu vaccine, everyone's going to naturally think it was because they were vaccinated.
Yeah. This is another one. I know people who have had 2 doses in good health, but then they have sudden health events. What assurance can doctors give when there is no guarantee the vaccine may have long-term health effects down the track?
Yeah, we, as I say, we can't give any assurances about any long-term health effects at this stage. There isn't any information available. We're all hoping there's not going to be any long-term effects because a lot of us have been vaccinated already.
Again, this is a new thing we're doing, so it's like I mean, we've just started with doing research with Auckland University about why BBM works. I say it works all the time, but it's, you got to have evidence and data and research. So that's what we're doing now. So I can say it works, and I know it works till the cows come home. But until you have that research, which takes time, 3-year study we're doing with the Auckland Uni, then we're also doing something with Massey University too. So unfortunately, it's just the way it is. You just have It's just time, eh?
Yeah, it is.
Why should we get vaccine now? If so, how many people have recovered from COVID?
So what that term means is that the number of cases we've had in New Zealand, a lot of people have recovered from it. So we're talking about, 1,500 cases this particular outbreak. And so naturally, that 1,500 is only a small number out of the 5 million, isn't it? And so the whole idea is to try to protect everybody else that hasn't had the disease yet, right?
Yeah.
So it's a simple numbers game.
Health Minister said you can still get COVID and pass it on if you're fully vaccinated. So why bother taking it? This is a common attitude that a lot of people have, right?
So it's all about some protection being better than none, right? If you wait to get the COVID disease and then play the Russian roulette to see if you're going to get through unscathed, well, there are a lot of us who aren't as healthy and fit as Dave is, healthy and fit as Dave, and so we need to have some form of protection, and I think that's what it comes down to, really.
Yeah, why risk it? That's the way I'm thinking. Why risk it? You know what I mean? It's just a simple thing you can do. And it's not just protection for you, but protection for your loved ones and those around you in the community.
Yeah.
Can side effects lead to death? You've already said this. It's a very, very minute percentage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how many millions of doses of vaccine have been given worldwide? Do you know that? In New Zealand alone, it'd be millions and millions and millions, right?
Yeah. I think we're talking about over 2 million in New Zealand so far.
Wow.
Around the world, it's millions and millions.
If I get sick or die taking the vaccine, will the drug companies be held liable and accountable?
I suspect there'll be some kind of class action against drug companies if that was the case. But I guess we'll watch the space. But so far, the vaccine's been pretty safe so far.
I'm going to skip a couple of questions. I will come back, but this is one I've been looking for. Why are some health providers offering incentives such as petrol vouchers, food parcels, prize money, and this is what does my head in, KFC? Is this ethical, especially in our Pacific communities? Isn't this adding more problems?
I think this is just marketing, isn't it? We're trying to encourage people in some way to try and get vaccinated. Yes, you could say it's unethical, but this is just marketing 101. People want to try and get those who are undecided to get vaccinated, and if it means they're going to get an iPad or something like that, then they're prepared to do that, to take it. At the end of the day, it's about personal choice. You have a choice as an individual to decide, one, do you want the vaccine or not? And secondly, whether you want to have go into the drawer for KFC or an iPad or what have you, it's been given away.
I don't mind the iPad, food parcels, and all this stuff, prize money, but the KFC was just done my head in. Knowing that the issues of obesity for our people, Māori PIs being so high, type 2 diabetes, I just couldn't believe it. But it's also up to us, It's like, our people are changing our mindset around this food. Our people, we celebrate a donut shop opening, and I was out there when at this donut shop. I mean, I like donuts, but I was there protesting a Tongue of the Pacifica there, and there was, we were celebrating, it was there. So it's a deeper issue, the KFC, but to me, it's totally wrong. Food parcels, fine, prize money. What I do hope is that the food parcels continue once everyone is vaccinated, because the issue of poverty is not going away once we get rid of COVID, or once we reach 90% immunity, 90% vaccination.
Yeah.
Poverty and the need for food parcels still going to be there, so I hope they're still going to be offering them.
Yeah.
Okay, team, we're going to go for another 5 minutes, okay? And then look, sorry, doctor, we're going to have to do this again next week because we've got so many questions. Do you mind?
Not at all.
I think this is important. I think this is important. A message to get out there. So we will come back. If I have missed your questions, please don't message me hate. And why don't you ask this question? We're going to come back next week. Okay, so you've heard it here. Okay, so why is pancreatitis on the Ministry of Health's website list of conditions being monitored?
I did see a paper where this condition, pancreatitis, which is an inflammation of the pancreas, there was one case in a 96-year-old. It was a mild case of pancreatitis. It's I think that they were unsure from that case why it happened, what's the link. But it was a 96-year-old, and they did well. It was only a mild case of pancreatitis. I think it's just like any medication. They want to list every possible side effect, right? No matter how rare, they want to list it all, because if they don't list it, then there's going to be trouble, right? So they have a responsibility to list every potential side effect so that people are as fully informed as possible. Yeah.
Well, we'll do two more questions, Doc?
Yep.
So here we got here. Is it a freedom of choice to be jabbed or not? Is that correct?
The answer is yes, it is freedom of choice to be jabbed. But the problem that's happening now is that it's becoming an employer-employee situation, isn't it? And people, certain employers now are making it mandatory as a condition of employment. No jab, no job is what they're saying. And I think it depends on where you're working, whether you're working in the ports, whether you're working in schools. It's becoming an employer problem.
And that's choice. I'm pro-choice as well, but it's about making the right choice. And I talked to a friend of mine earlier today, and I talked to him about choice. And this was his reply. You could choose to stay in bed in the morning. You could choose to eat Maccas every day. You could choose to drink every day and never exercise, but you will die early. You can choose not to get vaccinated, but there are consequences for you, your friends, and your family. That really to me sums it up, right?
It does, yeah.
Very wise man. Look, we've got so many questions come through on I just want to read a couple more. Is that all right with you?
Yeah,
I know what time do you start work today? What time do you finish work, I should say? 10 o'clock, and what time do you finish?
6:30.
Big day. So I really appreciate you, bro. So got a couple more questions. Jenna Kelly, what would your advice be for those who are considering attending a mass gathering whilst we are still at level 3?
I hope that everyone's vaccinated, and I hope that everyone wears a mask, and I hope that no one's got symptoms. Just remember, you can still have COVID and have no symptoms. You can be well. That's the scary thing about going to a super spreader event, right? So that's why, your best protection is to be vaccinated, because it's less of a worry when you go shopping, right? We have to remember that it's not just about wearing the mask. The virus can go in through your eyes. If you're wearing glasses, you've got another layer of protection, right? Against droplet infection. Exactly. But so many people don't have eyewear on, and they're at the front line, right? I mean, you see a lot of people wearing shields. That's great. It's protecting their eyes, and another way of the virus getting into the body. So the public are mostly wearing masks, but they're not wearing eyewear. So they're still not fully protected. So hence, that's why we've got to look at all those other public health measures, like washing your hands, trying to keep distancing. Everyone still talks about 2 meters, but we know this virus can jump 4 meters.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why, no matter what we try to do, it's going to be impossible to totally stay 100% safe. We need to do as much as we can to protect ourselves and protect our families.
My advice to you, Jenna, is while we're in level 3, don't go to a mass gathering. That would be and like the doctor said, if you do go, which we're not advising you should, make sure that you're wearing a mask and social distancing and all that stuff. But level 3, look at where we're at now, 60 cases. It's, man, look at what's happening over in New South Wales, and all these places are getting hammered, Geez, we don't, oh man, I'm just hoping people listen and we don't, cause it can happen so quick, 60.
Yeah, it can go exponentially, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that the impact that could potentially have on our hospital system. We don't have a big hospital system like overseas. My concern is that the hospital is full. There are no more beds. There are no more ventilators. And what about the situation that was in India, where they had no more oxygen?
Yeah.
We could easily use up all our resources. And then, what happens? And remember, it's going to target the unvaccinated first.
Yeah. All right. So final 2 questions, I promise. So we've got a question from Ray Allen. These are from the crowd. Okay. So there's lots and lots of good questions, Doc. So we'll come back. Geez, we might have to make this a weekly segment. Hey, Dr. Richard, and can you make me a doctor as well? Honorary doctor. Dr. Bean and Dr. Richard every Sunday. All right. We've got Ray Allen. Are there any known medications you shouldn't have? You shouldn't have the vaccine if you're on any medications.
The answer is no. So we know that there are some people who have very low immunity. They call that immunocompromised. What the authorities say is that it's safe for those people to still get vaccinated. We just don't know how strong the immune response will be to the vaccine, and whether it will be as strong as someone who's got normal immunity.
Oh, my wife's just messaged. There was a question that we wanted to ask about pregnancy. This has been a big one, and this is one that me and my wife, not that she's pregnant, but this is what we've been, thinking about. Is it safe while pregnant?
The answer is yes. Now, I can understand why people are worried about that. My son and daughter-in-law are expecting their second child, and they asked me the same question. Dad, should we get vaccinated? And the answer is yes, because if you are pregnant and then get COVID, you're a higher risk, right? What happens is that to be able to breathe, your diaphragm pushes down, and if you've got a big tummy, and if you've got a baby inside your big tummy, it makes it harder for you to take a deep breath. And when you're struggling for breath, that's what your body is trying to do, is trying to push the diaphragm down. So that's why pregnant women, particularly in the later parts of pregnancy, are at high risk if they get COVID. So we want to protect both mum and baby.
So it's of no risk to the unborn baby inside.
Correct.
Getting the vaccine.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, bro, we might leave it there, unless my wife sends any questions through. But look, what would just be your last bit of advice? We're going to come back next week to everyone joining in. We've got a lot of viewers, and there's a lot more questions. We can't possibly answer all of them tonight. But what would you be your comment to someone that's sitting on the fence? Because I believe we're never going to convince the hardcore anti-vaxxers. We just won't.
Yeah, you're right.
But people that are sitting on the fence, what would you say to them?
Well, think about not just yourself, but think about your family and think about your loved ones, right? You know, you're the most vulnerable, because it's not about just protecting yourself, it's about protecting your loved ones, your family as well. And you know, so many families that I've spoken to during this outbreak, you know, I remember a family of 8, 6 of the family all had COVID. The ones who didn't have it was a 15-year-old boy and the 68-year-old grandfather or father of the mother I was speaking to. And we knew that the 68-year-old was going to get it. It was just a matter of time because they'd all been in close proximity. And this is why we're trying to talk about getting vaccinated. It's about protecting all of your loved ones, all of your family. And there's only one way to do that. Get vaccinated.
Yeah. And also, you know, I really want to go over again that to the people that are watching, is that the percentage of people that have died from getting the vaccine is very, very minuscule.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, just another thing to factor into. I have got, sorry, bro, my wife's the boss, and I've got to make sure I answer these questions. Breastfeeding. There was a couple of questions around breastfeeding. Is it safe to breastfeed? And the baby got a rash from a mum who had the vaccine.
Yeah, look, I saw those questions about rashes appearing shortly after they've been vaccinated, and you know, can you get this in the breast milk? The answer is I haven't seen any information to say that occurs. Right? So we have to remember that a lot of things in life occur naturally, just like that facial weakness we were talking about. And kids' skins are so sensitive, right? They change like the weather does sometimes. You only have to look at nappy rash in kids one day, or even in the same day, like the weather changes, can have a normal looking bottom in the morning and the bottom's red later on in the day. Babies have got very sensitive skin, so they can get rashes for all sorts of reasons. And I think those who have got a history of eczema in the family or asthma in the family are going to have even more sensitive skins that are likely to react to something. I think we have to remember that breast milk, you know, can have an effect on babies in so many ways, depending on what you're eating and drinking as well, right? So it may be something else in the breast milk because of a meal that mum may have had the day before, right? So the short answer is I haven't seen any information about any harm through vaccination appearing in breast milk.
Yeah, and the boosters, bro. What's in the booster? So when we get to the point where we have to have boosters, do you know what's in them? Is it just the same vaccine again?
The same thing. Yeah, it's just trying to pick up a drop in the immune response. So as the antibody levels start to go down over time, by giving a third booster, it's to prime the immune system and kick it back up again before it drops down again. Right. So as you say, you know, this could be one of the reasons why everyone has to have an annual shot to make sure that those antibody levels stay high, that protection stays high.
Well, and again, this comes down to mindset, team. If you're having to get 1 or 2 shots a year annually, but think about how many times do you go through the drive-through at KFC? How many times do you go through sit in a line to get something that's not good for you? So it's always, I just want to really encourage people. This is about the way we think about things. It's a mindset. If you have to get a booster shot every year, think about it. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like, the old saying with us, and I always go back to the story. I had Phil, who's lost almost 150 kilos with us when we first started. And I'm looking at the wall right now, has a big no excuses written on it. And when we first started his journey, he rang me one morning, and it was raining and it was cold. And he asked me, he said, Dave, are we still training today? Because it's raining outside, and I asked him a question. Do you still go KFC in the rain? Do you still go? Of course you do. So we just really, it's all about, and when he thought about it, he goes, oh, yeah, true. Yeah, who cares? It's only rain. So it's about changing the way we think about these things. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. But thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much to everyone that's joined us. Please don't be disappointed. We are going to get through all these questions. There is a whole heap. So I think, look, why not do this every week, bro? While we're going through this.
Absolutely. I think people are going to have questions all the time, and particularly as the climate keeps changing. But just thank you to all the viewers for sending through the questions, and we hope that I've been able to answer most of those for everyone to their satisfaction. But just keep sending them through, and we're only happy to try and help people and make sure that you're fully informed. We're not here to try and sway people to go one way or the other. The choice is always yours, but we want you to make a fully informed choice.
Yep, and we'll be back next week. We'll keep firing the questions through, and we'll come again. What's the name? I was going to say something. I've totally lost track. It is late, but thank you so much, bro. Thank you, everyone, and we'll catch you all soon. Stay safe out there. Make sure, don't forget what I said about exercise. It really helps if you do get COVID. Okay, it's best to be fit and strong. Get out there and exercise and eat right. Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
Thanks, team. See you soon next week. Same time, all right? 8 p.m.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. See you soon, team.